All right, guys, I really jacked up. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-record this review and kind of just start from top to bottom rebuilding this robot simulator app. So I do apologize for that, but let's get started right away so that we don't waste any time. And let's take a look. All right, so we have our index HTML and index.js. We've got the README that we say to always read from top to bottom, but we went over all that stuff already, so I'm not going to torture you with reading it again. And what we're going to focus on is just on the tasks that we've got to build. So this one tells us to open up the index.html file in our browser and read all of the instructions before beginning. All right, so we've got a robot displayed in the grid. The robot is capable of moving along this grid using a function called move, which has been provided for us. When called the string left, down, right, or up, the move function will move the robot in that direction. Try it out in your console. All right, cool. So if we are in the console, we could run this guy. So let's come over here. And we saw this earlier also. So I can do move right. That moves our guy to the right. Awesome. So the reason why I chose an array is because I saw this store the commands thing here. So store generally means we want to save something, right? So our task is to add functionality to the page such that when a user presses the arrow keys, that direction is added to a list of directions on the right side of the robot's grid. We've already provided you with a UL element with an ID set to moves container. You just have to add LI elements to it containing direction that was inputted. So we're going to come over here and where it says add code, we're going to create a moves array. Cool. And then we're also going to grab some of the things that we know that we're going to need, like the move button and the move container for later. So I'm going to say const move button equals document get element by ID move button. Okay, we're also going to need a move container. And this is move container. Cool. So now we've got three things that we are going to be working with that are set globally, meaning not inside of other functions, even though it's inside of this DOM content loaded function. All right, this is awesome. So what we want to do is we want to store the moves when the user presses a keyboard input, right? So one of the things that we can do is just create a event listener, and this event listener is going to be on the key up. And then we got a little function that's a callback that's going to fire whenever this key up event takes place. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say if e dot key equals arrow left, or we're just going to copy all this because we're going to do this three more times. And this would be arrow right. This would be arrow down. And this would be arrow up. Okay, so all we did here was we created a conditional to check if the key that's being pressed is the up key, down key, left key, the right key, the down key, or the up key. All right, and then if it is, what we want to do is we want to store that key into our moves array. So we are going to say moves.push, okay, and then we're gonna push e.key. All right, now the only problem with using e.key is that it's gonna give us this arrow left, right? And then what we want is just like something like the word left or right or up, right? So those are the kind of things that we want instead of this big arrow left. So one helpful function that we can use on strings is replace. So we can just say replace, and then what we want to find in our string, in this case it's arrow, okay? And then we're going to replace it with an empty string, okay? And then we want to say to lower case. Okay, and now all we've done here is we've pushed into our array whatever key was pressed, but only the word little left, little right, little down, or little up, whatever, right? Okay, great. So now that we have that pushed on, we might want to also add it to our UL, which is our move container. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is we can say move container dot inner HTML plus equals. Okay, and in this case, what I'm doing is I'm gonna set an LI, and we're gonna do this one manually because we went over this earlier, and I want to show multiple ways of doing it. Instead of doing the append child, we can do this guy. And these are things that you could always just Google. How do you append a thing? How do you remove a thing from a node? Things like that. Cool. So what's next? So in here, we're gonna want to put in a the value of whatever that thing was that was pressed. So we want to get the thing that's in the we want to push that key that we just put in there. So we could actually do the same thing that we did here. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Okay, and that's just the little left, the little right, the little up, or we can do moves and just get the last item in the moves array. So then we do moves, and then we want to get the last item, so we do moves.length -1. Okay, and all this does is if there is one item in the array, the length of the array is 1, -1 is 0, so we're going to get the item at position 0. Okay, so this should work. And again, I'm doing things without testing first, but I should always just start console logging and figuring out what is happening. So in here, I'm going to console log. As a matter of fact, since I have all that code written already, I'm just going to console log my moves array and see how it looks. Moves. Okay, cool. So let's go to this guy. Let's just refresh, and I'm going to press the right key, and I got cannot read property inner HTML of null. So if we come back to our code, I've got move container here, move container, and it's saying that it's null, so we couldn't grab the move container. Did I misspell it? Perhaps it's the moves container with an S. Okay, so I'll see here, moves. It's moves here. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna refresh, and we're gonna see. Now on call reference error, move container is not defined. Oh, I'm sorry. I put smart. Put the S in the wrong spot. So this is where the S was missing. Yep. So I'm going to save this, and now we're going to test one more time and make sure that that is working properly. And that's where you always test right away before writing too much code. So we're going to press the right key. All right, cool. So what's happening? Our array, which is separate from what we're appending here, is got the right key inside of it. Now if I hit left, now we have right and left in the array, and now right, left, left. So I'm adding all these items to this array. Cool. So that's how we make that happen here. And append stuff with just not a whole lot of code. The next thing we can do is, let's see. So we store the commands. Now we want to move the robot. All right, so the robot does not move until the user presses the move button. When this button is clicked, the direction of the top should be removed from the page, and the robot should move in that direction. So when it's clicked, so when move is clicked, we want to move the robot with whatever the move is at the top of the page. So one of the things that we can do here is document.add event listener, and now we want to add a click event, right? Because our click is going to fire off on the move button. And for this to work properly, so it doesn't fire every single time, we want to say if e.target .id, or just e.target.id equals move button.id, and this is a comparison. Then we want to do some stuff in here. And what do we want to do in here? In here we want to move the robot, and we want to remove the top item in the UL. Move the robot, move the top item in the UL. That's pretty much it, right? So how do we move the robot? Well, before we move the robot, we want to figure out what the top item in the UL is. Get the top item in the UL. Move the robot with the contents of the top item, and then remove the top item in the UL. All right, so now that we're in here, what we want to do is somehow get the child element of the moves container, right? So we're going to say moves container dot get child. You know what? I don't even remember how to do this. So let's Google it. Get child node JavaScript. Okay, so it's a property. It's not a function, so that's why it wasn't popping up. So moves containers, and then you're gonna say get child nodes, and what does that do? First element child. That's my one. This one might be a little better. I don't like that either. Child nodes. What does this guy do? Okay, yeah, so we can just do this guy, child nodes. Sub 0, right? Oh, put sub O. So moves container get child node sub 0 dot inner text, right? And if we just console log that, so you guys can see what this is. And we come back over here, and I hit move, cannot read property 0 of undefined. moves container, get child nodes, moves container. Just child nodes, I'm sorry guys. You probably saw that and you were like, what's he doing? All right, cool. So I'm gonna come back to the robot simulator, bam. So again, it's just getting us that inner text. It's not getting us the node itself, it's just the inner text. If I were to get rid of inner text, we do this again, we get the entire node, right? So if we want to move something, what we need is just a text. So I'm going to say move this guy, but we need that inner text. And we also want to remove this guy. Okay, and then we also want to pop this guy off. And looking at this now, we probably still, like, we could probably even get rid of this moves array altogether. And we don't, yeah, we can definitely live without it. And instead of doing that, we're gonna take this guy here and drop it in here. Oh, sorry. Now let's not complicate our lives with a moves array. We could just do that, and that's just as easy, right? And now we don't have to worry about shifting or popping or pushing. Like, it's just whenever we add something new, it goes on. Whenever we remove, we're removing from here. And that's pretty straightforward stuff. So now, when we click, we should be able to move the robot. So we got the top node. If we were doing it, in order of this pseudocode that we wrote here, then we would say let li equals this guy, and then in here we would say li.innerText, right? So we got the top item in the UL. So we said let li equals move containers at child nodes sub 0. So the first item that we got back. Then we said move li.innerText. So we got that child node and then we got the inner text. And then we removed that child node. Or in this case, this is the same thing as li, right? So I can just say li.remove. Okay, dope. And this is a function. So hopefully moves is not defined. Where am I using moves? This is when I was console logging, but we don't need to console log. It's all going to be showing up right here anyway. I hope you guys can see my mouse too in the screen recording. So move. But here's what happens. What happens if I hit move again? Bam. On-caught type error, cannot read property inner text of undefined. All right, and that's because we're saying move li.innerText, but we've been removing all the li, so there's nothing left. So whenever we click and the move button equals the click, right? We're jumping into this, and what's happening is that we're saying let li equals this guy, which doesn't exist once we remove all of them because there are no child nodes. There are no more li's left. All right, and then we're trying to say move li.innerText, which just is not a thing, that just doesn't exist. So that's why we're getting that error, which is this guy here. So cannot read property inner text of undefined. And it tells you right where it is too. Index.js 21, index.js 21 right here. All right, cool. So now that we've done that, let's see, what else can we do? oh, we want to fix this error. Sorry, kind of had a little brain fart. So a way that we can fix that error is just see if this exists. If this is not undefined, so we can just say and all right, and then if we want to see what this guy is, just so you could see why this is returning, why this isn't just not firing, I could do console.log this guy, and we're gonna get the child nodes of this move container. So if it's empty, it's undefined, right? And undefined is falsy. So if I do this, it's gonna give me the opposite of what this is in Boolean values, true. And then if I do a double bang, it's gonna give us what it actually is, and that kind of, it coerces anything that can be either truthy or falsy into either a true or false value, right? So this guy is just falsy in JavaScript, so we can just put that on there. I'm sorry. If there is no LIs in the UL, then this is going to be falsy. If there is an LI, then this is going to be truthy, right? So if I put this back and see how I put the double bang now. So I'm going to say move false. But if I put in a item into our LI and I click it again, that is now true because there is an item in there. So if I just show you what that item is, bring it back up. Sorry, let's refresh the page. Bring it back up. If I click move, see, it's an LI, and we converted that LI into a truthy value. True. All right, hope that makes sense. All right, so now we can remove, and then we stop once we get to a certain point. Oh, let's refresh the page, and we get no more errors. So if I didn't have this on there, the code would still work, but you're gonna get an ugly error in your console, which is not good. All right, great. So we've got this bad boy moving. What's the next thing that they want? We want to be able to delete a move. So when a user presses the delete key on their keyboard, remove the last direction from the list of directions in the UL. So we want to remove the bottom one now. When we move, we were removing the top ones, right? So just so you see, like the first top three are gonna move, and then continuing on. So what they're saying now is that we wanna, when somebody hits the delete key, we wanna remove this guy, then this guy, then this guy for every time the delete key is pressed. So if it's a key press event, or a key down or a key up, we're gonna throw it in this guy here. So we're gonna say else if e.key triple equals backspace, then we want to remove the last li, right? So in this case, what we can do is say, what we're gonna have, we want to find the last li in the ul. So we can say, I wonder if we can just do, let me console log it. Moves container dot child nodes. Oh, look at this, first child and last child. Look at that. Thank you, VS Code. And that should give us the last child, right? So I'm gonna refresh this. So now if I hit backspace, I should get the last li, which is left. Oh my goodness, that's so simple. And we can do the same thing over here. Instead of child node sub 0, we can just do first child. Look at that. learn how to refactor on the go. I just found that property and now we're using it. That's JavaScript for you, finding new stuff all the time. Cool. So all we want to do is remove this guy. That's super easy. Wow. Look at our app go. And now we're going to delete. Now I want to move. Wow. Amazing. Incredible. Unbelievable. Look at how little code we've written. It's great. Love it. Hope you guys are excited. I am. All right. So there's a final one, which is a bonus. And it says when the move button is clicked, the robot automatically moves according to the list of directions every half second. The direction should disappear from your list of directions as the robot moves. You may want to look into set interval. Okay, so whenever I'm setting an interval, I know that in the future, and this is just from practice and from knowledge, in the future I will want to get rid of that interval to stop whatever is happening from happening. So what I always do is I create a variable and I just call it let interval. Okay, and that is going to be assigned the value of what set interval returns, because set interval returns a its return value is a number. So we're going to say set interval. It takes a function. I'm going to call console log on it. And I'm going to do this every 1,000 seconds. And I'm just doing this so that you guys can see that, you know what? Let's just write the function out. F it. I'm not sure if that was going to work. Okay, so I'm console logging the set interval so you can see that all it's going to do is it's returning a number. I'm missing after something. I missed a closing. What did I miss? Oh, for the console log. Okay. So see, it returned a 1. So if I create another interval, it's going to have another number. And this is the second interval that I've created. If I create another set interval function, it's going to have another one. So if I want to clear those intervals, I would have to run clear interval. And I'd have to pass in that number. Okay. So I didn't clear shit because there is none with a 3, but there we go. So clear interval 3 should have cleared one of them, and then clear interval 2 will clear the other one, and then clear interval 1 will clear the first one, and then we stopped running that by. So that's how interval works, and that's how we remove the interval, and that's why I'm saving this variable, because every time I create a set interval, I want to save that. And then when I remove the set interval, I want to have that value saved somewhere, because what ends up happening is I created another set interval and you see the value just keeps changing. Even though there's no more intervals in my code running, because it's still on the same refresh, like you get assigned a new value. All right, so sorry to go off on a little tangent there on set interval and clear interval. But I felt like that was a good little start so you can understand what's happening and how we get rid of that interval from running. Cool. So next thing is to, we want to set the interval in here, I guess, right? Because this is where we're going to create our moves. I'm going to say set interval, but I'm going to say interval equals, because that set interval is going to return a number to us. And the first argument is a function. And the second argument to this is the length of time, and it's 500 milliseconds. And then we want to pass this stuff in here. So we just grabbed that same code that we just had and we dropped it right in here. So now, let's see what else. So this is going to give us an error. Again, I just know what's going to happen here. If you guys don't see it, it's okay. And what's going to happen is, I don't know how to figure it out yet. I'm going to have to think about it and troubleshoot it. So what's going to end up happening is that this set interval is going to continue running even after we've removed all the items from the thing. So this should work. The interval will start counting down. And that technically, completes the lab, but we're going to have an error where once we get to the end, the interval continues to run, right? So if the interval is continuing to run, the code inside of it, we're trying to get the first child of the move containers, which no longer exist. Then we're trying to move li.inner text, which we're just passing it undefined to the move function. And then we're trying to call remove on this thing that just doesn't exist, right? It's not a node, it's nothing. So we're saying cannot read property inner text of null. Where it breaks is right here, right? And then we probably don't even jump into this part here. So how do we fix that? That's a great question. And I don't know. Let's see, what can we do? We can have our if statement in here, right? And we can say if this guy here. So we are going to move this problem from the top. We're going to say, hey, you're responsible for it down here. And all should be well in the world. Why am I closing this bad boy wrong? Oh, smart. Cool. And so now what we did was we said if move container has a first child, all right, then we're gonna do this. If not, then just whatever. The interval will continue to run, but no code is getting executed. We're checking. Check. Nope, nothing in there. Okay, check. Nope, nothing in there. Cool. So, cool. So now we can do this, and now when we hit move, when we get to the end, the code shouldn't break. Oh. Did I not save this? Oh, I didn't save. Smart. Let's try that again. All right, cool. Now it's not breaking. What I don't like about this is that the interval is still running and there's no way of turning it off. But so if I just do this, even though I haven't hit the move, it'll keep moving now. Whenever I move a key, it'll be on a half-second delay. All right, and that's because we never cleared the interval. So we would have to figure out some way to clear the interval and set some sort of breakpoint right on this button, which shouldn't be super hard to do. All we can do is maybe change the button name and ID to this. And if it's if the button ID is move button, then we go into this. Else, if it's something else like pause button, then we can just clear the interval. So I'm gonna leave that for you guys. That's not super hard, and I did it in the other solution set that we have. So sorry again for the recap of the review. Hopefully this went pretty quick and it clears things up also. I feel like the more we go over stuff, the better it is. So take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Blah, blah, blah. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah.